Okay, so one thing I already made it in the announcement. So in the announcement, you can see on the announcement for this class, you are able to download the data file from the Cengage. Is that you have many examples and you can work around with them and play around with them. So basically, in my slide, I got many of them and I put it in my slide, right? So think about this one here. For this one is which number 4, and you can download the for this week we work with the module number 4. So you can download the file from the number 4 here. I can save it in the download here. Okay, for this one, and you see when you open it, and you have the sum of the example with the Python file here, right? How to convert from the binary to decimal, how to convert from the decimal to binary, how to decrypt, encrypt, and also we have the text analysis, right? Yeah, that is a good example for you to work around, play around with the Python. So if you do not have any question, and go with the slide here. And in this week we work with a string and a text file. Now, the first part of this one is that when you are accessing character and substring in a string here. We learn about how to check portion of the string for substring for this one. Now, the first thing is that string is a data structure. The data structure, that means it consists of smaller bits of data. That means when we have string or when we have a sentence, you can break it down into the word, or you can break it down into the characters here, right? And normally for string length, it is a number of all of the character it contains, right? And in order to know that how many character in a string, you can use the length function here. Again, the length function is a built-in function. Right? It gives you how many character you have in a string. So, for example, if you have the string here, it's a height there, right? And you use the length function before the string, it counts for all of the character in the string here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Remember that it counts for every character in the string, include the space character, right? Okay, so you use a subscript operator or index here. The same when you work with the array, right? The same when you work with the array here. The string is a list of character, and you can access to any single character by using the subscript. What is it? Okay, and remember the subscript are the whole integer number, and the subscript is a start from the 0 and to the number of character minus 1. The same when you work with the array here. I think about this one here. You can think about this one. You have the string here, there here, right? In that you have the 9 character. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And the subscript starting from the number 0 come all over to 8 less than 6, 1 less than character here, right? That's the thing you have to remember when you work with the string here. And to access to a specific character, it is a syntax string name, and you bracket here, and you put on the subscript here. And also we can use a negative subscript, also very useful here. So if you want to access to the last character, you use string name and -1. And if you want to access to the second to the last, you use a -2, and so on here. Also very useful here, right? And you see string name and -2 access to the next last character, and use the length function to access to the last character. Now think about it. If you want to print out the program, if you want to work with the program to print out every character in the string one by one, so how we do it? What do you think? For loop? Yeah, you use a for loop, and it's starting from 0, right? Come all over to the last character. So normally you use the length function here, right? Use the length function here. So see, if you have my string, I put a string here, I use a for loop, the index here or the subscript, right? The index here starting. I use the range function here. You know that when I work with the range function, we're always starting from 0, right? and come all over to the last one, but not include the last one. Right? So for this one here, you have the length matching, it returns the length matching is 9. Right? And when you range 9 here, so actually it works everything from 0 to 8. That's why you see it print out every single character in my string here with the index here. Right? Okay, or you can use slicing for substring here. The Python subscript operator can be used to obtain a substring through a process of called slicing. That means you can slide here, right? And you can place a colon, double colon here to enter can appear to either side of the colon. So we think about this one here. If you were to print out the whole, if you want to print out the whole character in the file, you see you have the starting from 0 and you column here. That means you read everything in the string here. Right? And for this one here, is starting from 0 and you end with the number 1. Actually, it's print out the first character of the string, and so on for this one here. Also, you can use a negative. Right? If you use the negative 3, that means you print out the last 3 character. Okay, now for this one, all right. So for this one also, when you exchange the left operator is in here, that means you want to check if the substring is in the string or not, right? So for this one, you see you have the file list here. We learned about the list later in this class. A list you have the 3 elements in the list. You have the myfile.txt, you have myprogram.exe, and you have the jawfile.txt here. Right? And now if you want to check that if the substring here, substring.txt in the file name, the first step you have to run the loop, right? For the file name in the file list. So for this one, it reads every single element in the list. Right? It reads every single in the list, and for each of the single element, it checks if the substring here .txt in the element or not, right? So when you read this one, the txt here in the myfile.txt and in the jawfile.txt. That's why when print it out, you got the myfile.txt and jawfile.txt. Okay, now you have the some of a very basic example and a basic application when you work with the string here. The first thing is data encryption. Right? So basically, it's very easy to observe data crossing the network. Normally in the wireless network, it's an open network, right? So the attacker can use a sniffing software. You have many open sniffing software, right? So basically, to enhance security, you have to use the data encryption here. That means you encrypt the plain text into the encrypted data. So even that someone able to capture the packet, but he had no way to translate it, right? Many protocol have the secure version. So you think about HTTPS here. So HTTP is in plain text when you are using the web browser, right? But you use the HTTP that you secure it, encrypt it here. So in order to do with the data encryption, you need one or more key to encrypt the message to produce the ciphertext. And of course, when you receive it, right? When you transmit it, you convert from plain text to the encrypted message. But when you receive it, you want to decode it to bring it back to the normal to the plain text here. And you have the sum of the very simple example with the Caesar cipher or block cipher here. Now, you have the Caesar cipher. It replaces each character in plain text with the character a given distance away. So think about this one here, right? So if you have the Caesar cipher equal to 3 characters, that means it shift it to 3 characters. Think about this one here. If you look on
the other side.
Okay.
On the other side.
Nice. So if you look on this very simple encryption here, right? That's the Caesar symbol. Right? So this one, if you have equal characters, that means for every character in the string, you shift it to the 3 characters. Right? So think about this one here. From A, right? You have the A. You shift it, you come to the D here. Right? You shift it, you come to D. And from B, you shift it, you come to the E here. Right? Come to the E here. So for this one here, right? When the original text here, invader here, Right? When you increase it with the cipher with the 3 character, you see you have I, you shift it to the L here because I, J, K, L, right? You have the 3 character and so on here. Now, so what do you think? In order to write program for this one here, you have something to think about this one. It's very simple, right? The first one, you work with the loop, right? You have to think that you need to read every single character in the string here, right? For each of the character, you have to shift it to the 3 character here. So in order to do that, you use the ASCII code, right? You have to understand about ASCII code. In the computer, each of the character, you have the specific ASCII code come with the specific character, right? And you can see here, you can look on the ASCII code table online here. You can see how we work with the ASCII code here. Yes. So basically for the ASCII code table. Yeah, right. So we can scroll it down. Not this extended. Yes, this one. So for this one, you can see for this one here, right? Starting from the character A. So when you're starting from character A, you have the correct. We have the ASCII code of the 97 here, right? ASCII code at 97, and B you have 98, and so on here. So we have A, B, C, D, and come all over to the character Z. You have 132, right? You have 132. So that's why when you look on the table here, you see everything starting from A with the 97 in the ASCII code here, come all over to the 122 here, right? So for this one here, if you shift it to the 3 character, if you shift it to 3 character for this one, right? So if you shift it to 3 character, you have the A, you come to the D, you have B, come to the E, and C to the F, and so on here. So basically, you the access to the string, right? And you access to every single character in string, and you convert it to ASCII code, right? You convert it as ASCII code here. So think about this one here. You have I here. You have I. What is the ASCII? What is I? Let me see here, right? So for the I, you have 105 here, right? So think about it. You have I, you have 105. So first step, when you want to convert the invader here, in the invader, right? Invader. The first step, you have to accept to every single character in the string. Take it out. Now you take it out number I. You convert it to the ASCII code. You have 105 here, right? 105 here. Now, if you want to shape it to the right 3 character, you have to add it to some number 3, right? So we have the 108 here. So when you have the ASCII code of 108, you have to convert it back to the character. So see 108 here. When you convert it back, you have L here, right? You have L here. So you see when you shape the number 3 character, you have L, and you do the same process with every single character in the string here, right? It makes sense. So now come back to our problem here. Our program here. So when you come back to our program here, it's quite simple, right? It's quite simple when you work with everything. When you work everything from the A to W here, to AW here, right? So see, we ship it to the 3 character. And so about the W here, you ship it, you have to come to the Z here. But what happened if you want the X here? Right? If you go with the character X here, so we see when you convert to the ASCII code, you have 120. And when you add it 3 character, you have 123 here. It overflow in the range of from the 97 to the 122 here. Right? So in order to do that, the X here, you have to come back to assign it with the A here. And the Y here, you have to combine to assign it with the 98 here, and the one with the Z here, you have to assign come back with the 99 here. So how we do it? What do you think? What is the process? It overflow. If you have overflow of the 122, and you have to come back here. So how process it? So normally you see for every character here, you just add it to number 3. But for this character, it's not only added to number 3. You have to come back it also. So how we do it? What do you think?
Using the F.
If what?
If the values over 122, subtract 26.
Yeah, right. That's all. You see, you have to see. If you look on this one here, this one here, when you add it to the number 3, you have 132 here. Sorry, 132, 133, right? And you want to come back it to the 97. Actually, you just subtract it 26 here. And the reason you have to subtract 26 because you have 26 character in the ASCII code. And if you want to roll over again, you have to subtract it 26. Right? The same with this one here. You have 121. You plus 3, you have 124, right? 124, you minus 26, you have 98 here. And this one also, you have 122, you plus 3, you have 125, and you plus, you minus 26, you come back to the 99 here. Right? So the process is that you need to check, right? You need to, the first thing that you need to access to every single character. That's the first step. The second step, you have to convert it to the ASCII code, right? The third step, you add it to the number of distance, in that case, number 3 here. But when you add to the number of distance, you have to check if it has the possibility of overflow here, right? Overflow. So we have to check if greater than 122. So if it's greater than 122, you have to minus it to the 26. Right? So here's the example. Here's the program. Right? So basically, you can work it. You can download it in the data. In the data here, so you can see on the program here, right? So see, you got the message here, right? You got the message here. Now, this program here allow you to get the distance from the app user, right? So you might shape it 2 character, 3 character, or 4 character, whatever it is, right? Whatever you want here. It's starting from the code with a blank here. So we see for the character here in plain text, that means you access it to the string here, right? And for every character here, you use a function here. You use function ORD here. That means you convert it to the ASCII code. You convert it to ASCII code. And for each of the ASCII code here, you add it to the number distance here, right? And now, when you add the number distance here, you have to check if it's greater than 122 or not. Actually, for 122 here, they can use this one. It also convert it to 122 here, right? This also, you can understand the 122 here. And if it's greater than 122, the whole process here, actually, you minus it to 26, the same, right? Because you think about this one here, you have 97 here. This one, you have 122 here, right? And you subtract together, you have 25. And of course, you need the one more here. That's why you have to minus 1 here, right? Otherwise, you only have the 25 here. Make sense? Okay. So basically, it's very simple. It's quite simple program, right? So we see you access to every single character in the message by the for loop, right? For each of them, you convert to the ASCII code. Convert it to ASCII code here. And for each ASCII code, you have to determine how many sheep you need, right? And now, if greater than 122, you minus 26. That's the process here. Now, think about this one. What happens if I want to ship it back? Not to ship it forward. I want to ship it back to 3 characters. What do you think?
Subtract.
Yeah, you subtract here. I subtract here. But what else? What do you think? Anything else?
Need to change the if statement to flip the ORDZ and the ORDA, so that to make it so if it overflows going backwards,
Yes, right.
to go back to the end.
So basically, you see, if you look on this one here, if you look on this one here, If you go backward, right? If you go backward here. If you go backward, think about this one here, right? Think about this one. If you go backward for this one here, if you go back to the three character from D, you go back to the D. You go back to A. Very simple, right? But what happened here? C here, overflow, right? And B here, overflow. Right? So basically, this one here, you have to come over to the other way here. Right? So in order to do that, you have to modify the program. In order to do that, you have to modify the program. Okay, now if I want to go backward, what do you think? What I have to modify here?
Go backwards.
You have to minus, right? You have minus.
Change that to a minus, switch the Z and the A in cipher value within the if statement.
Anything else?
And
You change
then,
A here.
and then switch that,
Change it to A here.
yep. Change that to an A, change the next lines A to a Z, and that Z over by the OR to an A.
Do you think it work?
I believe so.
Have to make changes to, like, you might have to take away cipher value or add one at the end instead of subtracting.
This one?
I'm not certain. Probably, I assume.
You still have one more mistake here.
We have to change the value of the greater than or less than.
Yeah, right. Actually, you have to less than it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
change that to the other way.
Okay. Let's see.
Money where our mouth is.
Okay, now let's see. Let's run this one here, right? Inverted for this one. And number 3 here. That's correct. Now, how about if you modify it, right? You modify it here, you shift it, you have the less than right here. And you change it to the Z and change it to the A. And you plug one here.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. To make it simple, we have the A, B, C, D here.
Wait, you put an A instead of a,
This one. Right?
You subtract or value from distance on it.
Ah, yeah, right. You have to shift it backward. So A, B, C, D, E. Number 3 here. What happened? It work or not?
it worked.
But it shift to number 3.
Drifted too far.
Too far, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So what do you think? So this one actually you have to add to 26, right? Add to 26 here. Yes, that's correct. So from this one here, see, this one already 25, right? And you need add one here, it's 26. I think that's correct. Yes, that's right. That's right. You have to add it 26. So this one here, well, this one is 122, and this one 97. You minus it, you have to 25, and you have to add 1 to 26.
Yeah, that worked just fine.
Yeah, that's all.
Everything's where it should be.
Okay.
Disturbed by that squiggly line under the code, but
So that is the encryption, right? Encrypt here, and to do the decrypt, you just do the reverse here, right? So do the reverse here. So basically, for this program, you have something to work with the program, right? You have something to do with this program here. Right? You can use the OR function here to return to the ASCII code, right? ASCII code, and for the char function here, you convert from ASCII code to the character, right? Write the program to access to all of the character in the string. So you use the for loop here. This is a for loop, and in plain text here. And for every character, convert it to the ASCII code, add to the distance, and check if it overflow or not. If overflow, minus overflow, you minus 26 here, and so on. The process is the same here, right? So actually, that's one it is the reverse process. The reverse process is that so when you shift it to the right 3 character, you minus 3, and if you shift it to the backward 3 character, you add it to 3 here. So it's quite simple this program. Okay, this one is very simple, right? So we think it's very simple. Normally you have to work with block cipher here, but it's our scope in this class. So now we convert how to string and we convert to string and number system. So basically for any number, it can be any base, you know that, right? You can be the base number 2, number 3, number 4, and the number 5, whatever it is. And some of the most common base is a binary. Binary that's in base 2. The base 2 because each number you only have the 2 values, 0 and 1, right? Or you can have the base 10. Base 10 is more common. Everything for each number you have the 10 value, everything from 0 to 9. Or you can have the base 15 or hexadecimal. So for each number you have the 16 value. You have everything from 0 to 9. You have A, you have B, you have C, D, E, and F here, right? So the digits used in system are count from everything from 0 to n minus 1, where n is a system base. You think about this one. It's in the binary, you have everything from 0 to 1. And if you have the decimal, by 10, you have everything from 0 to 9 only. Okay, so in order to convert the number system, you have to understand about the position number and the different value here. So basically, when you work with the base number 10, right? Base number 10 or decimal system here, you work everything on the position of the column here, under the position of column. You see, the first column you have the column 1, right? The second column you have the column 10, and you have 100. You have 100 column, and you have 1,000 column. And the reason you have 1, 10, and 100 and 1,000 because you work with the base 10. You work the base 10. So see, for the base 10, for the first column, you have the raise 10 to raise the power of 0. That's why you have 1 here. The second column, you have the 10 raised to power of 2. You have 100 here, and so on here. So basically, if you have the number, if you have a number 55 here, 55 here, if you have the number 55 here. So if you look on the number 55, they have the same number, right? Both of them the same number, but the value is not the same. Right, so see, this one here is the 1 column. You have the value. Now this one is number 5, but this one here is a 10 column. So value of this one is a 50. Right? So basically, when you add them together, you have the number of 55 here. Right? So you have, when you work with the number system, you have something you have to pay attention to the position of the number. So even that the number is the same, but the value is there, not the same. Right? So basically, in order to convert it from the decimal to the binary, right? Binary to decimal, you do exactly the same. But the only difference here in the binary, in binary, you know that binary is a by 2, right? It's a by 2 here. It is by 2. And the by 2 that means for each number, you only have the 2 value, you have 0 and 1 only. So again, you break it down in the column, right? You break it down in the column. For each of the column, you have specific value for this column, right? So see, when you have the column, the first column here, you have the by 2, you raise to power of 0, and the so on, right? It's the so on here, right? See this one here, and so on here. So basically, you see in the computer, you work with the byte. 1 byte, you have 8 bits, right? That's why you see you have everything from the bit number 0 to come all over to bit number 7, you have 1 byte here. And for each of the column, you have the specific value. For this one here, you have 2 raised to power of 0, you have 1, you have the 2, you have 4, you have 8, 16, 32, 64, and 128, and so on here. Right? So in order to convert it from the binary to the decimal, you think about if you want to convert from the 110000000 here, you want to convert it to the decimal, you have this one here. See, you have number 1 and the value of this column here is 128, right? That's why you have value of 128 for this column here. This one you have 1 and the value 64, you have the 64 for this one. And all of them here, you have 0, right? You have 0 here. And if you add them up together, you have the 192 for this one. Right? So we see when you have 1100000 here, and when you convert it to from the binary to the decimal, you have 192 here. And I know that you all know about this one, right? When you work with the NETI classes. So now how we write program to convert it? How we write program to convert it from the binary to the decimal system? Think about if I enter the string here, if I enter string number 1, if I enter string here number 1 and 0 0 0 0 0 0 here, how will you convert it? What do you think? What do you think about the program to convert from this string here to the value of the decimal system? What do you think? How we do it here?
Go through each position in the string. If there's a 1, then set the flag or set the bit high for that position. So if it's position 1, we add 128 to a counter. We move over to the next one. If it has a 1, we add a 64 to the counter, and so on and so forth.
Okay, so what happens if you have more than 8 bits here? It can be 10 bits or 12 bits or whatever.
It's a good question. You'd have to use the length function to figure out how long your string is.
Yes.
So then you could say, if it's 8 bits long, then evaluate starting at 128. If it's 9 bits long, start evaluating at 256, and so on and so forth.
Well, you could also do 2 to the power of insert the number length here,
Yeah, right.
number of bits here.
Yeah.
You get that as input from the user.
Okay, so think about this one here. If you have more 1 here, so it's not always 8 here. So you use the length function and you use the exponent function. Yeah, use the exponent here. So think about this one here. The first thing you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So for this one, when you use the length function, you have number 10. And you have starting from the length minus 1 exponent, right? So for this one, you see, you have the 10 raised to the power of 9. 9 here, you got it from 10 minus 1. And you do so on. So when we shift to the right here, you decrease the exponent to 1 and so on. That's the process. So we can do it with any length of the binary here. So that's the program here, right? So you see, you can add the first step here. You enter string of bits. It can be any number of bits here, right? And starting with the decimal number 0 here. Now you see that's the process here, right? That's the process. You work everything from the left to the right. You work from the most value column first, right? You see, that's why you're starting from the length function here in minus 1. You do it from the left to the right, right? So now for each digit in the bit string here, you move, right? You do from the first one, you have decimal equal to decimal. And remember that when you take out the digit, that is by the default in the string number, string format, right? And you have to convert it to the integer number here. And use the exponent to number 2 here. That is the function of the exponent to number 2 here. Right? And of course, for each of the iterations of the loop, when you want to shift to the right, you have to minus exponent to number 1. Right? That's the process. That's all. Okay, so you see, you can clearly see it, when you work with. Yeah, you can check with this one. You can run it. Yes, so think about have 1. Put it here. sorry. 1 0. You can do whatever. So you can see it's step by step here. You have the first time you have the decimal 0 here. You have the decimal 0 here, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Right? For this 12, that's why you have the first step. You have the decimal. That means you have 0 here, equal to the. Sorry, that's the new decimal is the old decimal here, starting from 0, right? You add with the first one is number 2 here. Sorry, the first one is number 1 here. That's why you have the 2 raised to power, 2 raised to power. What's it? 11 raised to power here. So see this one, right? The first step here, that is the value of this one. Also 2 raised to power 11. We have 2024, 2048 here. We move to the next one. You have 0, right? Next one you have 0. Next one you have 0. Now for this one you have, what is it? 11, 9, 10, 9, 8. It's that means you have 226. Right? So when we add it up to the 2048, you have the 304, and so on. That process is the so on here. That is the last one, right? That is also the accumulator here. So see, the process is the accumulator. You set the accumulator 0 at the beginning, and for each iteration, you just add it up to the value of each column. So we went down with this one. See, at the end, that is at the end, you have the value. Make sense? Yeah, quite simple for this one. Okay, so now how we convert it back to the how we convert it back from the decimal to the binary? What is it? From high decimal to binary. That is convert from the binary to decimal, but how we convert back from the decimal to binary?
We need to find the highest possible number in the binary that it can fit into. So in that case, in that example that you did on the screen, we need to find that the highest number is 2048.
Yeah,
so we need a list. We can generate that with a while loop, and then with a while loop, we need a list of all the potential values or something like that, and then we figure out which is the biggest one that can fit whole into the number. Then after that, we know that we can take the square root of that and find that it's 9 for 2048, and then we can iterate through and subtract the next value. We divide that by 2, we get 1024. If that can fit into it after subtracting that, and we set it to 1. If not, we move on to the next one, so on and so forth. The only thing I don't have an elegant solution for is getting a list of all of the potential binary value, the starting binary value, without hard coding it or something like that.
Okay.
But after we find the highest value, every time we iterate through the loop, we can just divide by 2. And get the next one.
Okay. Actually, that's not the one I think, but we have some other one here. They has a solution for this one. Yeah, I think about the same, but when I look on this one, I think that's a good solution for this one here. Right? So basically, you have many algorithm to convert from the decimal to binary, but one of the algorithm here that to keep dividing by the number 2. Right? Because you see, when you look on the column on the binary, right? For each column here, when you double it, you have the next column value, right? So see, the first column we have the value of the number 1. The next one is 2, 4, and 8, and 16, and so on. Right? So that's the process. So now what they do it, they got the number here. They repeatedly divide the decimal number by 2. They keep it with 2. And for each after each division, if the remainder is that when we divide by 2, the remainder only 0 and 1, right? 0 and 1 here. Alright, so after each division here, the remainder is either 0 or 2. 1 is placed at the beginning. Remember that you have to put at the beginning, even the beginning of the string a bit here. Alright, and if the quotient become to the next dividend in the process, and keep doing it here, continue until the number is greater than 0. That keep doing it until you get to 0. Right? So think about this one here. Think about this process here. If you want to convert 192 here, if you want to convert 192 to binary, so how to process here? You see, repeatedly divide by the decimal by 2, right? So when you divide by 2, this is the quotient you have, and you have the no remainder for this one. Now for the second iteration, you have the 92 here. You divide by 2, you have 48. You have no remainder, and keep doing everything the same here. Keep doing everything the same. So at the end, you have 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1 and 1. And of course, when you put it at the beginning of the string of the bits, that means you revert it here.
I really like that solution. That's really elegant, actually.
Actually, it's very elegant. Yeah, yeah. So when you convert it, right? When you convert it, you have the 1 and 1 and 0 and 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 here. That is a very, very good algorithm here. And the reason it doesn't work because you know that when you work with the binary, each column, when you double it, you got the next column here. That's the process here. So if you look at back here, right, you see that is a value of each column, right? So see now you know this one. See you have 1, you have 2, you have 4, you have 8, 16, and 32, and 64, and 150. That's why you said keep dividing by number 2 here. Yes, that is the process here, right? So see, the reason that it tells that you have to put it at the beginning of the string of the bit here, right? So that's why you have to put it here. You have the remainder here. You have to put it at the beginning. Otherwise, it will be in the reverse order. I should think about this one here. So think about if you run this program. When you run this program here, no, this one. And so, yeah. But I see if you reverse order here, you have the reverse order. That's why they tell you that you have to add it at the beginning. Okay, that's why the order is very important when you work with the string here, in the string here, because each time you want to put it shift to the right, you have to put it at the beginning. I think they have the quick way to compute the decimal value number. I don't know what is the quick way here, but the process is that they keep thinking about this one here, right? Keep thinking about this one here. So for this one, when you convert it, this one here, right? You count it, or you have 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? So that's why this number 2 raised to the power 4. You have the 16 here. Now, so how we figure out what is the number 1, 1, and 1 here? You know that this number is one before the next number here. The one before this one. So basically, when you figure out this one is 16, you minus 1, you have the value of this one. That's why they call it the quick way. But for me, I don't see any benefits, much benefit with this one. Okay, now. So how we convert from the octant to the binary? So we basically octant is known as the octant. You have the by 8, right? The by 8 here, and in order to represent in order to represent an octal number here, you need the 3 bits. Right? And the reason you need 3 bits because you know that 2 raised to the power 3 is 8 here. Right? The 8 here. So you see, you have 1 digit binary here, you have another digit, and you have another digit here. For each of the digit, you have the 2 possibility. You have 2 possibility here, you have 2 possibility here, you have 2 possibility here. So when you time together, in order to represent any octal number, you need 3 bits here, right? You need to be 1, 2, 3 here because you have 2 times 2 times 2. You have the 8 value here. Right? That's why for every octal number you need the 3 bits. But in order to represent the hexa number, right? The hexa number, you know that you need the 16 value. Everything from the 0 come all over to 8. Sorry, 9. So we have A, B, C, D, E, and F. Right? So you know that for the hexadecimal, each digit you have the 16 value, and you know that in order to represent the 16 value, you need the 4 bit here because the 2 raised to the power 4 you have 16 here. So in order to convert from the octal to the binary, you just group every 3 bit together. Right? You just group every 3 bit together. So you convert it from you convert it here. You convert you convert it, right? If you have 1, 1, 1, you convert it, you have the number 7 here, and you have 0, 1, and 1, you convert, you have 3, and so on here. Now, the decimal, you know that in order to represent the hexadecimal, you need the 4 bit, right? That's why in order to convert it, you just group every 4 bit together. Right? You just group every 4 bit together, and you convert it here. So now how we write program? How we write program to convert from the hexadecimal? That's this one. Okay. No, this one, right? Okay. Now what do we think? If you want to write program to convert from the hexadecimal to binary, how we do it? What's it? How we do it? Let's think about that.
I'm thinking of a function similar to the OR.
Or function?
Something similar to it, but I can't put it's on the tip of my tongue.
No, I think that you have to define the function. The first, you have to define the function to convert it from let's see. You group every 4 bit together, right? You group every 4 bit together. You group every 4 bit together. So you have many ways to do that. You can create the list here. You can create the list, and for the binary, you have everything from 0, 0, 0 come all over to 1, 1, 1, and matching every single element in the binary to the hexadecimal. That's okay. That's okay. Or you can convert it. You can convert it to the decimal. You can convert it to decimal, and you matching the decimal with the hexadecimal. So think about everything from 0 to 9. Hexadecimal the same with the decimal, but A you convert it to 10, and B you convert it to 11, and so on. So for this one, I think it's very, very simple for this one. You can create the 2 lists and you matching every single together. It's okay. Now we have the string method here, right? You have the string method in the Python. Include a set of string operation. The call is the method. So later on in this class, we learn about the class and the method. You learn about the object-oriented program. But for now, is the thing about the method. You can think about the function. The function here, right? The Python includes a set of string operations. They call it the method that makes it. Now one of the common method is a split here. Split method. The split method here. The split method. The split a string into the list where each word is a list item, and later on we'll learn about what is the list. But for now, is that you know that by using the split function, it will break it down the whole sentence into the separate word here, into the separate word, in the list of separate word here. And you can specify the separator, but by the default separator here is any white space. So if you have any white space, by the default, we will break it down into the separate word here. So think about we have the program here, right? That input enter a sentence, right? Now the method here, this is the method here. After this one, it will break it down into separate words inside the sentence, right? Inside the sentence here, and you put it in the list, so we can use the len function here to know how many words you have in the list here, right? So for each of the word here, right? So for each of the word here, again, you can count for how many characters inside the word. You can count for how many characters inside the word, and you sum it up together, and you divide by the number of the word. You have the average word length for each of the word in the sentence. Make sense? Okay. So this program, right? This program you can think about. Not this one. So the first step here, separate it, right? Separate it, break it down into the separate word here. And remember, by the default, if we will not put anything here, by the default, any white space, it will define it will define a split here and break it down into the word here, separate word here. I think about I just want to copy any word, any sentence here. I think this one. Copy this one. Let's see. Okay. Okay, so see how it works here. It breaks down, right? See the first step here, right? You see the first step here. It breaks it down into the list of separate word here. And the reason is that we use a split function. And if you do not specify any character here by the default, any space, right? Any space is the program where my input. No, here, input here. Input here, you can see. My input here, any space here. Of course, you can specify any split here if you want. Let me see if I have any other one. No. Let's see. Let me modify it here. Oh, okay. Oh, so when I copy, I cannot modify it. Okay. Oh, yeah. Let's see what happens if I change this one here. I change the program to this one. Actually, I have to change before that. I think. Yeah. Do it again. Stop it. So I change it. Okay, what happened here? Okay, so see, it break it down, right? It break it down into the three element here. And the reason I break it down 3 element because I put this one at the splitter here. Remember that you can specify any character you want to split it here. But by the default, if you do not have anything, it will be the white space here. Okay, so that's the process, right? It's the first step here, we break it down into the list of separate words. For each word here, for each of the word, see word here is the list of the word here for each of the word. Right? You count for how many characters in the word. So we sum it up together and you divide by the number of the list in the word. You have the average word length. And for the string method, you have many built-in string method here, and you can check it by you can check it by the you can check it by the deer here. Yeah, you see, you have many methods inside the. You can work with string here, and if you want to look on anyone, you can use what is it? This is here. Not sure. I'm not. How can I check it? Let me check it again. I think it's digital. Where? Okay, this one. I think have about. See?
Could you do str.isDigit? Maybe?
Okay, yes. This one?
Yeah, maybe
Yeah,
that
makes
would
sense.
be-
Yes, thanks. So yeah, it returned it returned the true. The string is a digit thing. Okay, this one is it's very good for so for input validation. Right? You want to make sure if the user enter number or not. So yeah. So we have many of this one. Well, yeah. So yeah. So basically, if you want to look at, you have this one with the object here, and you have the method here. So you have module and you have the method here. And you have object. See what it is. It remove all of the white space chaining. Okay. So basically for this one, you have many built-in functions with the string method here. You have many built-in functions with the string method. For this one, you see you have the you have the count here also very you can use it very often here. You can count for any substring, or you can count for any specific character in the string here, and you can check if the string and with a specific substring or character what you want, and you can use the file function here, and we check is alpha or is digit here. Okay, for this one, right? So see, when you specify, right, for this example here, when you specify the dot here character, you will split it into the two word here. The first one is the modifier, the second one is TXT here. Or you can use this one also, and have the minus one here. You take it out, right? The last element, you take it out. You take it out. For this one, you take it out. TXT, PY, and HTML for it. Now I think you work with the file tag here. The file tag. So basically, in order to save the data, right, you have many ways to do that. And one of the common ways that you save it to the file, and you save it to the hard disk for the later processing here. And use the tag editor, you can use a notepad or tag editor, whatever it is. So, but one thing here, you have to remember when working with the tag file is that remember that any data in the tag file is always in the string format. It's always string format. So what happened here? If you want to store the number into the file, the first step you have to convert it to string format to store it in the file. And if you want to read the number from the file, also you have to convert it back to the number. for the processing. Right? That is the thing. The same when you work with the input function. Right? Remember that every value from user when you work with the input function, by the default, we always in the string format. And if you want to use the number, you have to convert it in by the integer function or float function. Okay, so now if you want to write a file to a text here, the data can be output the text file using the file object here. Now, if you want to write data to the text file, the format is that the first step here. The first step here, you have to create an object and you put it reference to the file name here, and you have to specify which action you want to do with the file. So you have a W, that means you want to write it to the file, and if you have R here, that means you want to read it from the file here. If the file do not exist, it will automatically created. And remember for this one here, when you specify the file name here, but you do not specify the location, the directory, and the by default, it will automatically create the file on the same directory with the Python you are working in, with the Python file you are working in. Right? And if it not exist, it will create it. If it not, sorry, if you already exit, you will override the file here. Remember that we override if you close the file here. So the write method is back in the single string argument here. Remember that by the default, right? By the default here, when you use the app here, it's the object, and object here is reference to the file, my file.txt here. Right? And in the object here, you can call the method right here, and call the method right here. But remember that by the default, when you use the write method, it will write into the file by the single line only. By the single line only. And if you want to separate it in the different line, you have to use the character next line here. Remember the one thing here. Okay, and if you when you done it processing, remember that you have to close the file. And in that close the file, it says save the data in the party. So think about this one here. You have the program here. Now see what happened here if I run it here. When I run it, I think it should print it here. Oh, so see, so what happened here? I think it should be better. I set the file somewhere. Set the file. Let me put it there. Stop and new folder here. Okay, so I can verify my new folder. I have the right file here in my folder, and now I run it here. So this is what happened here, right? So this process, in the new folder, I do not have the tab.txt yet, right? So after this step, it will automatically create the file. The name is the tab.txt and store in the same folder of my Python file here, right? So now when this one here, it is object in reference to the file. And when you call the method right here, it will write everything in the plain text here. And remember that by the default, when you write whatever you have a 10, and you can use the 10 right or 100 here, it always print on the same line. It always print on the same line, and you can verify it. You can verify it again when I come back to my folder here. You see, it automatically creates a file, and you see the time here. It's time here, so it creates, right? And you can see by the default, it always print on the same line here. Right? So if you want to separate it, on the separate line, you have to use the next line here. You have to use the next line here. So you think about you have another one for this one. You have the third line here. For this one's the last one, I do not need whatever. So what happened here? If I run it again, this one will override my clear file because they have the same name and they have the same location here, right? And it override my clear file. And the thing that now I use the next line here, so we separate into the separate three line for this program. I run it again. I close this one. Close this one and run this again. I think after this one, I have to put F clone here. I have to close the file. Okay, so see now, it will override my previous file and it's stored into separate file here. So that's the thing that you have to keep in mind that by the default, it always by string format. And whatever it is, whenever you use the write function method, it always store on the same line, on the single line. And if you want to separate it, you have to use the next line character here. Okay, so for this one, you see. See, if you do not use the next slide here, right? You print out on the same, and if you want to separate it, you have to use the next slide character for this one. Okay, and of course, if you want to print it in many lines, you can use a for loop or whatever it is. If the repetition, if you have the repetition in the program, the Z program here, right? If you want to print out the 1 line, 2 line, 3 line, 4 line, and so on, the 10 line, you can use a loop here or counter iterate from everything from the 1 to 10, right? I want to everything from 1 to 10. I remember that the range function is always starting from 0, right? And one less than that's why if you use the range function, it's always starting from 0 to 9. And now if I want to everything from 1 to 10, I have to add 1 here. That's the reason I have to add 1. And one more thing that remember that this one here, it is in the number format. And if you want to store it into the file, you have to remember that you have to convert it into the string format by string function here. And if you for each of the line, you use a next line character here. Let's see what happened if I do not use the string function here. What happened here? I believe you have the syntax error. You have syntax error here. Yeah, you have the syntax error here, right? Because you see, it not support for the int or for the number format. That's for that reason. If you want to store it, you have to convert it to the string format here in order to store it. Right? That's something you have to keep in mind when you work with the file. The first thing that whatever it is, if you want to write the data into the file, remember that you have to be in the string format. And if the data is in the number format, you have to convert it to the string format. And also, if you want to take out the number from the file, remember the number in the file is string format, and you have to convert it back to the number format. Okay, so now we talk about how to write text to the file. Right now, how to write things to the file. It's the same, right? Sorry for the same here. For the same here, right? So remember that in order to write a number in the file, you always have to convert into the string format here. I see. You have to always have to convert into the string format for this one here. So this one we have number in file. Right. Now I store it into the integer txt.file. Right. Again, I want to write it. That's why I use the W here. And I use the loop. For this one, I got it. I will store everything number from the 1 to 10 into the integer file here. I can refresh it. Oh, sorry, this one I did not save it yet. Right? That's why I have to save it here. Into the desktop, new file, run it. Okay, and now I can go back to my folder. I have another file here. Print out everything from 1 to 10. And of course, for this one, right? you can totally flexible with the program. You can do whatever you can think about. You can access to the file, take out the number, sum it up together, figure out average, everything is this one. Okay, so that is about a process, right? That is the process of writing the file. So remember that in order to writing the file, you have something to do. The first one, you have to create the object. You have to create the object here, and you use the open, and you specify the file name. And if you want to specify about location, you can use the directory here. Right? So you have to create the object. You use the open function, right? Specify the file name, and you have the W here to use the right. After that, you have something to remember about the file here. If you want to write to the file, remember when you use the right function, it's always in the same line. And if you want to separate it, you have to use the character next line here. That's the first thing. The second thing is that when you write to the file, remember it's always in string format. And if you want to write the number, you have to convert it to the string format here. Now, that is the process of writing text and writing number to the file. And what happens if you want to access to the file and read it out, take it out and take it out the text and take it out the number in the file? You have to work with the reading number, reading from the file here. So in the case reading from the file, now the first thing is that reading text from the file here, right? So we do the process is quite the same. Now instead of using the W is for write. Now we use the R here, R here for the read, right? And by the default, if you do not specify directory, this file here must be on the same. It must be on the same directory. It must be on the same directory of the Python file, right? And you see, you have some way to read text from file here. The first thing is that you can read the whole file as a string. When you read the whole file, you can use a method here. You can use the method here. Read here. Read here that means it reads the whole file, whatever it is. Even that you have 100 lines or 1,000 lines, it only read for one time only. It take it out all time here. For this one here, this program, right? So for this program here, for this program, I already have I already have the tab part. I already have the tab part here. Now I want to read it for one time only. Sorry, I want to read it for one time only. Or I do not have the program. It's a whole file. Do not have the program. Okay, so that is the first method. If you want to read the whole file, and you use a read method here, or you can read it every single line. You can read it every single line here, right? And read and process the text one line at a time. You can use the for loop here. So when you use the for loop here, right? So we see when you open the file, right? You use the loop, right? You use the loop here, line in F. That means the object here. So for every single one, you use the function here, print line. It print out every single line of this one. And of course, it's up to you if you can manipulate any line you want. That's when you work with the for loop. And you can work with the while loop as well. So while loop, that keep doing it until you got the new. You have the line with the no character. There's no character. That means we have to here. Keep it while true here, right? That is while true. Keep doing it here. For each of the line, you use a function here. F read line, and if the line here equal to the nothing here, you break. That means you exit the loop. Right. So basically, for to read text from the file, right? Is write the text from the file. You have the three ways to do that. You can read the whole file. You can read every single line with the for loop and the while loop. Nothing here. So you can think about this one. I run the program here. I have this tab file in the start. Okay, so we see it reads the whole file at one here. It's already reads the whole file at one. Let me run this one. Okay, and this one. So this one, I will create the tag file, tag here, and everything from 1 to 10. Come back to my test here. Yeah, I have a 1 line, 2 line, and so on here, right? So for this one, where my program? This one. Why am I reach the whole file? Oh, I do not have reach the whole file. So I run it. It's a single line here. So this one access to the tag file, and this tag file I have everything from the 1 line and to the 10 line here. And for each one, I just print out for every single line for this one. Okay, that's a single line. And you work with the for loop. And look how you can work with the while loop also. And so with the while loop, you keep doing it, right? Keep doing it until you got the line with no data here. That's why we have line with a space here. Okay, so this one, right? You see, keep doing it while true, right? That is post that loop. And for each one, it is a read line function here. Read line function, read every single line for this one. And keep doing it until you have to the end of the file. That's one is the end of the file. Okay, they do the same. You have 1 line, 2 line, so on. Okay, now that's the thing you read from the you read from the tag, right? You read tag from the file here. Now, if you want to read the number from the file, right? So remember one thing that if you look into my file here in integer here, right? So it store everything number from 1 to 10, but actually they all in the string format here. It always string format here. So if you want to accept, if you want to get the number, you read the number and then want to do processing with the number, remember that you have to convert from the string to the number here. Right? Now, if you look on the process here, if you look on the process, you look on the process here, right? If you look on process, where am my number? Where am I? 10. There's a why my integer have to make. Okay, number 5. Right? I have number 5. Yes, this one, right? This process here, I store the number, right? So if you look again in the process of store the number into the file here. If you look again in the process store the number into the file, right? See, you have to convert it to the string. You have to convert it to the string. And if you want to separate it into multiple lines, you use the and here. So now, if you want to access to the number in the file, you have to do the reverse way. You have to do the reverse way. So now you have to read every single line. The first step, you have to remove the next line character here. So that's the first step. And now the second step, you have to convert this one to the integer or the float function. So see, the reading number in the file is the reverse order. You read every single line, you remove here, you remove the character next line here, and you convert it into the number format. And in the Python, in the Python, in order to remove the next line function, you have the built-in method here. You have the built-in method here. You have to use the strip method here. You have the strip method. It will remove the new line character. Remove the new line character. So we see that's the process here. That's the process of this one here, right? See, you use the for loop here. Right, for each of the line here, right? For each of the line, the first step here, you have to use the shift method to remove the new line character. That's the first step. Right? Now the second step, you convert it here. Actually, you convert it line here back to the number format. Right? The line by the default, it is changed. And if you want to use the number, you have to convert it back to the integer number format here. It makes sense? So actually, the reverse is the process is the reverse here. Right. So you can see in my program here, right? My program here, I had the file, it's integer. I store every number from 1 to 10, but remember they are in string format. And if you want to convert it, if you want to read it and print out the number, print out the number is save it. What? This number? No. So we run it here. Okay, it print out everything number from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10. Of course, if I want to do everything with the number processing, think about if I want to sum it up or if you want to figure out average, I have to convert it to the number format here. Right? Think about this one here. I want to add the number, everything number 2, time it 2 here. So I take it out the number and I double each number in my file here. I double each number in my file. I have a 2, 4, 6, 7, and 20 here. But what happened here? What happened if I do not it? If I do not it, think about this one. I do not convert it or remove it here. What happened here? I just print like it. I have the syntax error for this one. Huh? Oh,
because
you don't get line twice.
Very interesting. So it actually it is double the text. It's a double stack here.
It just prints the line twice.
Yeah, right.
It also prints the new line twice.
Yeah, it's a new line also. Yeah, new line twice. Interesting. I think about this one.
Try to break it, but yeah, it still works.
That's it.
Right.
Yeah, I have line here. What's this? Divide. It's divide, right? Divide by line. I think this one will not work. Let's see. Yeah. Yeah, because this one's changed, you cannot divide it. And how about this one? Now, how about I have green line here? I do it first. It work or not? Not work. Because you have a new line character. Work. Check. 1, 2, 1, 2. Oh, but this one I cannot. I think you cannot put it not 2 here. Yeah, I increase each number by 2. Cannot do this. Yeah, right. You cannot do that. Yeah, because the thing is that even that you see for this one, even that you have the number here, but actually for each number it has a new line here, and you cannot use the integer to convert it here. So I think that's all for today. So next on Thursday you have something. I think almost done with the lecture here. On Thursday we do something with the exercise with the homework assignment.
Okay.
Any question?
I have a solution for creating it.
Hello? Any question?
No questions.
Okay.
I don't have any.
Okay. Daniel, Hunter.
On that until you can get into
Here.
it.
Okay, so I see you guys on Thursday. Scott, as I mentioned it before, can you talk to me after this class?